The next technique I want to share with you is called question to clarify. Because after all, the other person might be right. So if somebody says the report you've written is rubbish, ask them, what don't you like about it? We tend to avoid situations where we might get criticised, but either they're right and you can learn something, or they're wrong, in which case you can decide whether it's worth arguing your case or just fogging and letting it go with something like, okay, yes, it probably could have been better. Sometimes it's not worth the fight. Now, there's a great technique for finding out what someone's problem really is, called peeling the onion. And this is where you say, apart from that. So you could say, well, apart from the page numbering error, what did you think of it? And they may say, well, the report was fine apart from that. But if they give another thing about it they don't like, then it means that the first one wasn't the real reason. So just keep going and say, apart from those things, was the report okay? And when they finally say, no, that's it, then you know you've got the real reasons out. And quite often the last reason is the one that you really need to deal with. Now, why don't they come up with the first reason first time? And the reason for that is that people often have a fear that if they come out with a real objection straight away, that you might be able to handle that in some way. And this particularly applies when you get a no. You should always consider peeling the onion when you get a no. I'll tell you what I mean about this. Suppose you said to somebody, I'd like you to use this new computer system, and they say, I don't like using it. Ask them why, and suppose they say, well, the screen gives me a headache. Rather than dealing with that, say, apart from that, is there any other reason why you find the system bad to use? And suppose they say, well, yeah, also I find the menus confusing. You could then say, anything else apart from that? And if they say, well, no, that's it really, you now know that the menus are the real reason, not the screen. Often they won't come out with the real reason first, so you have to peel the onion to find the real problem. Once you've found the real reason, you can then move on to 3 more types of questioning if you choose to. And the first one is questioning to undermine. This works really well on me, actually. If someone tells me I'm wrong, I don't believe them. But if they ask me how I know I'm right, then I get a bit stuck for words. So questioning to undermine is subtle but very powerful. The second type of questioning is questioning to persuade. So suppose you wanted to, maybe persuade someone to give up smoking. If you just say, you should give up smoking, that's not going to work. They're just going to say, no, I'm addicted, I don't want to. It's much better to ask them, have you ever thought of giving up? And when you did think about giving up, what was your motivation? And suppose they say, well, I'd like to be better at playing football. You could then say, well, why is playing football important? And they might say, well, I want to play with my grandchildren. You can ask them about that. And you can really start to drill into what their motivation really is. And this is useful information when it comes to persuading them to give up. And then you can ask them, what's the barrier to giving up? Why don't you give up? And what would it take to overcome that barrier? And these questions are giving you all sorts of really important information about what's going on in their head. And remember that everything that they say is true to them. So if you say you should give up, that's probably not true. But if they say I need to give up, then that is true to them. The third type of questioning is questioning to disagree. So suppose you wanted to convince somebody that diesel cars are great. You could say to them, do you know the facts on acceleration of diesel cars and economy of diesel cars? And you can say to them, if there was proof that diesel cars are really good, would you be prepared to have a look at it? Or you could even say, presumably you'd be open-minded enough to try driving one. And those are questions to disagree. So I'd like you to think, has there been a recent situation where you came up against a brick wall and could maybe have got past it by using questioning rather than statements? Can you think of times when peeling the onion would be a way to find out more about what's really on someone's mind? Can you think about people who might respond well to questioning, either questioning to undermine, questioning to persuade, or questioning to disagree?